the video that is actually here. There's a lot of different pieces to it. And when I started developing it, I talked to my manager, and I'm lucky enough that she trusts me enough that she'll say, go with it, just go for it and get going, and then we'll talk about it and see how it goes. And so I started it and she loved it. We did kind of a storyboard first for this one as well, and just kind of different scenes of what was going to happen. So we made sure to cover everything. The script was written first, and the script was also recorded, both sides of it and the narrator, before I actually started doing this. So I don't know if you can see this. I'm hoping that this will play. It might take a minute for it to load.
And if that doesn't work, Melissa, I threw a link to this project in the chat as well.
Okay.
So if you need to do
All
it
right,
that
thanks. Sometimes with this, it's a little choppy when you view it from this view, but it's 16 minutes long. And most of the customer service things that you've seen in the past may have been 20, 30 minutes long. And this was kind of when micro learning was starting to really show its face, and we wanted to make sure it was right around 15 minutes. We went a little over, but that's okay. This has been viewed within our LMS over 400 times. It is a part of our new hire orientation, new hire classes for our contact centers. And then they will periodically decide that they want to show it to everybody again. So while it's still loading. So the animation that's in it, one of the other questions Adam and I talked about answering was, why did I choose this particular animation? Well, I just did. There's within this project, and I know that within like Beyond and some of the other ones, they have standard people that you can put in here. I don't know if Beyond has the little video clips that you can, like one person going from one side of the screen to the other, or it's all done for you. This particular format, there's a lot of different pieces in it that they'll have things move for you. So I'll just, hopefully this will play.
If there is audio, Melissa, we can't hear it.
Well, I don't know that the audio is as important as the as the video part. It does have audio with it, but she's talking, and that's probably because I forgot to push that button again, darn it. Okay, I pushed the button. Next time, remind me of that, Adam. All right.
Difficult customers. In our course today, we're going to discuss several different parts of dealing with difficult customers. This is Paul. Paul's going to help us with our discussion.
As well.
Hi, everyone. Yes, dealing with difficult customers is not always easy, but with our tips, you should be prepared to work with these challenges when they arise.
So as this video plays on, it has these two interacting. It has them then interacting with other people that are a part of like staff, if you will. It has those all of those interactions. It has a chalkboard, like they're writing on the chalkboard. So Adam shared that link with you. You can feel free to watch it. I'm not going to play the entire video for you because that would take up all my time and you guys would want to disconnect. So we're not going to watch the whole video. But I wanted to share something else that we have. You see, there's this manager highway, and this was another one that we decided to do animated as well. This was 2 4-hour classroom classes that brand new managers with our company went to. And when I was first hired, actually before I was hired, I was given a partial script. Well, actually it was a partial outline, and said, okay, how would you take this and make this into a training? And that was part of my actual interview process 3 years ago. And with that, I did a storyboard and had some pictures that I started putting together in PowerPoint. okay, because PowerPoint, you can load it into Storyline, it makes it easy. Some of the font gets a little strange sometimes, but it still works and you can make those changes. But I had this storyboard together, and it was this process of all the things that a manager has to do as a new manager. So if you have to hire somebody, what do you have to do? This is the TD roundabout is all about talent development, and that one's I think 4 minutes long, talking about the mandatory classes that people have to take. There's a couple versions of it. There's the payroll place. So I had this whole theme going of highway, and then they're all named after different things within the highway, with the turnaround and the different highways and the byways and whatnot. So that with that storyboard ended up being, okay, we want to do this, but how can we make our own signs, and have a sign that says Highway 101, and how can we do that? So I made a lot of those signs in Canva. I don't know if anybody uses that, but there's a lot of the signs and things like that that were made within Canva that then you can have them on a transparent background, so you can put them into things. And these all have different moving parts within them. There is an actual piece of video that I put a car on, that it looks like it's driving down the highway, and you pass road signs. And so it's taking this manager on this journey of, you've become a manager, so what do you need to know? Approving time cards, approving vacation requests, all of those things. That is the actual manager highway, that the entire series, there's 8 of them, that it took me about a year to put all of them together, because of getting the information that I needed. That it's a series, and they are the journey down the highway as a manager. And as animated characters, we made them look like they could be employees, and there's interactions with them and things like that between the 2 employees. So, or 5 employees or 8 employees. And it was really fun to do. Those are 2 older ones that I've done. I've advanced my skills a little bit since doing these. So I'm using a little bit more like movie clips and kinds of things in them. They're not movie clips, they're provided by the vendor, but different things like that. So I just finished one 2 days ago that I have approval to send to our CEO for his approval. So that's a little nerve-wracking, but they're really fun to do. The feedback that we've gotten has been, these are excellent. They give you the information, it's to the point, there's enough visuals in them, like the one you can see there with the chalkboard, there's enough visuals in them, but it's not reading the words that are on a PowerPoint. Sometimes people tend to put a PowerPoint in there, and then their audio that goes with it is actually reading the PowerPoint. So they're not like that at all. It gives you that balance of being able to see what you need and hear what you need. And it's moving all the time. So if you're a visual or a kinesthetic learner, you see that there's that movement within the screens for the entire time. And it just makes sense. Now, these topics, yes, they are very much HR related topics for what this manager highway is. But it wasn't considered as being juvenile or anything like that, just because it was animated and using cartoon-ish characters. So the feedback that we've gotten has all been outstanding, and people really like what they see, and they were fun to do. And the format that they're in, you can go back and you can edit out things. I just had to change one because one of our policies changed not too long ago, so I had to go in and edit it out. So as a designer, that part was fairly easy as well.
Melissa, I have a quick question for you, if you don't mind me interrupting.
Absolutely. I was just going to ask if anybody had any questions.
So these videos, like the manager onboarding that you did, were these standalone, meaning that the course was this video, or was it supplemented by other stuff too?
It's just this. So when they originally did it, when I first started, I observed the 8 hours of classroom training, and they had different people from the different departments. So our HR team, we're pretty unique. Everybody has kind of their own niche of what they do. And so the person that does benefits came in and talked about benefits. And the person that does corrective action came in and talked about corrective action. Well, as we all know, those of us that are in front of people and talking all the time have a little bit of a different maybe personality or way that we do that versus people that don't. And so it was a little, dry, shall we say. I can say that because those people that did that aren't with the company anymore. It was a little dry and it was a little sleepy time. So we definitely, when the task came to change this into online training, we definitely needed to make it a little bit more interesting to listen and listen to and watch. So that's what transformed this. But we're always available to answer questions. So that would be the only supplement part that's with it. But it literally is all the information that you need to know, and it stays in their transcript too, so they can go back and watch if they forget.
So Melissa, this is Mary. I have a question. You said it took a year to get the whole program together, which I know it takes forever to do some of these, but did you work on the whole thing and then release it out, or as you did different modules, were they able to do did you do it all together or a piece at a time?
I did it a piece at a time, and then it was released all together. And part of the reason that it took that long is that it was very new. If I had to do it now, I definitely would not take me that much time. But it was a new program for me to start using. And then when we released it as the management highway, and had all of the classes in it. And there's, I think, been two more added after the original release was done. But now anybody that gets promoted into a manager situation or comes into the company as a manager gets assigned this curriculum that they get to watch all of them. And the total time for all of them to watch all the different pieces is about an hour.
Wow, I think they're really cool. And I know it takes forever to create some of the different things. So
and to get the timing and the timing with the audio, yeah. But thank you. Yeah, it was really fun. Other questions? All right, well, I will throw out there, if anybody has questions later, feel free to contact me. Happy to help. These are fun if anybody ever wants anything reviewed or wants to ask questions, I'm always available to help. This is one of my favorite things to do. And I don't know, Amy says it's my passion. I don't know about that, but this is my favorite thing to do, is create some of these things and make them different. And especially when your company doesn't have anything like this at all for this type of program, it's really fun to mesh things together and really feel like you're making that impact within your business. Yeah. Awesome. Look at that, Adam. I did really good on time.
Spot on. Well done. I did post, so if you do want, we've got a copy of the transcript that I'll send out after today's session, and then we'll post this probably on the ATD Central Iowa YouTube page and link it on Facebook and LinkedIn. But if you do want to go, Melissa did share the full version of the first video that we kind of took a look at. So if you do want to watch that animation that she mentioned, we've got a link to it. She shared that with us. So feel free to do that after the session here. Before I jump in and share my screen, I want to ask a quick question. So if you wouldn't mind for me in the chat, give me can you do emojis in Zoom? Let me see, it doesn't look like it. Give me a yay or nay if you are currently using animated video in any training projects that you're currently working on. So open up the chat and just give me a yes, no, yay, nay, whatever, if you are using animation. So we got Riley saying yes. Joshua saying yes. Carol has in the past. Mary, I didn't realize Mary was on. Mary's yay, yeah. So what programs, Riley, starting with you, what program or how are you doing? Are you using like an animation software or are you using like After Effects?
So I personally don't do it right now because I'm too busy with e-learning, but we contract out and we use Beyond. We got a Beyond person that we just bring in the house and he comes and works on it here.
Cool.
Yeah.
And what about Joshua? How are you guys using animation right now?
I built videos in Premiere, and there's always the simple, like in your Articulate slides, you have this or that move or appear and disappear.
Mm-hmm.
So kind of both ends, fancy and less fancy.
And then Mary, how are you? Or let's go with Carol first. You mentioned you have in the past. So how are you using animation, Carol, in your projects?
So the one that comes to mind is one that I was converting an existing one that was made by a vendor, and we had to update it. So they had the little, like, almost like the construction people look, where it's got like the rounded, I just realized I don't have my camera on. I turned it off a little bit ago. Sorry about that. Well, I noticed that because I was using my hands. So there's just like little rounded shapes and people shapes, like stick figures, but wider. Mm-hmm. And so I actually used PowerPoint to create all of my characters and signs, and I looked at icons and then I remade them myself in PowerPoint, saved them as images, and then imported them into, I believe, Camtasia, and made a video out of it. So the individual characters didn't move, but they came in and out along the timeline. So cool. That was my first foray into it.
Awesome. Thank you.
Yeah, sure.
And what about you, Mary? You say you're currently using, how are you using it?
I am a Camtasia user. I have After Effects and Premiere. So I work for a Fortune 100 company. So like, let me preface that on the reason that I get all of this software. I have Premiere and After Effects, and I currently find them a little bit, they're kind of hard. Like, it's not something that I have spent a lot of time doing. So I really appreciate Camtasia because it makes it super easy. We do a lot with like doing screenshots and then doing, voiceovers with that to do kind of like a simulated walkthrough, or we might do like a screen recording video. I like using Camtasia because I think that it is a little bit more robust than some of the things that you can do like in PowerPoint, but PowerPoint you can honestly use as well if you're doing like a video screen recording. So there's a lot of different options, but Camtasia has been what I think is a pretty standard video tool if you don't have a lot of experience and you don't have a lot of time to really dig into something beefier.
Sure. And I think I appreciate you guys all sharing that. And I think it's a good thing to call out is like what we're looking at today. And when we're talking about animation is Beyond and Movely, two programs that are designed specifically essentially for that purpose. But I love that you guys mentioned things like, creating, like Carol, you mentioned creating something in PowerPoint and using Camtasia. Animation is not just like these big fancy animated videos. It's, any motion graphics or anything moving about the screen with text popping up. I mean, all that stuff serves the same purpose as well. So I appreciate you guys sharing that stuff. We may have an opportunity. I think in the past, the Tech SIG did a meeting about like Camtasia, and we've had some pretty good, like last month's Tech SIG about Beyond and Movely and like the product demo. We might have an opportunity to do some of that with something like an After Effects or Camtasia or something like that as well. So we'll put that on the burner to be determined, but thank you guys very much for sharing. So I'm going to share a project with you guys. I've got four videos that if we have time to get through, I would love to show these examples. Add a theme, just to give you some background about this project that these videos pertain to. We have a new business team that's primarily responsible for keying applications and paperwork into the system for new business stuff. So before the contract is issued or up to issue, the new business team works. So we have our new hire training, which is their foundational skill. And then we do 2 cross trainings after new hire training that deals with two additional functions. So the first one is called this pending requirement. So something was wrong or missing on the paperwork coming in with the application. We write out to our producers or get in touch with our clients. And then when we get those corrections, the new business team will key those corrections into the system. So that's called pending requirements. The third piece of it is called cache and issue. And that's the training project that I want to share and talk a little bit about today, is the process of we've got all of the requirements or the missing information is all sorted out. But in order to issue a contract, any insurance contract, you generally need money. So the cache and issue process is reviewing those funds, applying those funds, and then getting the contract to issue. One of the things I love about animation is how well you can, or how well it works to tell a story and to use narrative. So one thing we've been working really hard at Athene is gamifying and using storytelling in our e-learning courses. When we created the pending requirements, and if anybody was on the Tech SIG meeting last month, you may have seen one of the videos that I shared for that project. But we set this pending requirements up in this world called the land of pending requirements. And we set the learner in this course on a journey to become a citizen of the land of pending requirements. And in order to do that, they had to visit various stops around a map, and they had to demonstrate that they were proficient with these pending requirement reviews. So they learned all the technical content. Because the cache and issue training follows the pending requirements training, typically it's maybe a couple months. We knew that when we redid the cache training, we had an opportunity to continue that narrative because it would still be relatively fresh in the brains of anybody that had done the pending requirements training. And in its original form, the cache and issue training was 2 hours long, and it was filled with, like it was a traditional e-learning course. So you got a menu on the left side, a lot of text on screen. There's a lot of screen recordings, videos that were in there that demonstrated processes. Those screen recording videos were anywhere from 5 minutes to 21 minutes long. So if you can imagine, sitting at your computer for 20 minutes and watching somebody narrate as they navigate a screen, maybe not the most engaging, very informative, but maybe not the most engaging way to do it. So when we looked at cache and issue, we thought we've got a prime opportunity to gamify this and make it highly interactive by immersing the learner in a story. So I'm going to show you guys 4 videos. I'm going to drop a link to that video in the chat. Yes, Carol, I saw your comment. Last month's meeting was recorded, so you can go out to the ATD Central Iowa YouTube page, and it's out there. I'm going to drop a copy of our narrative introduction video into the chat, and I'll have you guys click that link and go out and watch it. It's actually hosted on Beyond. That's where all these videos were made. It's about 3 minutes and 18 seconds long, this first one. So I'll put that in there. You guys can go watch it, and then we'll talk just briefly about kind of how it was made and the why behind it. One thing though, before I do that, is I want you to think about this. So this video, this introduction video for this course, it sets the stage for everything in the course. Learning objectives, what the learner is going to expect. I want you guys to look at this through the lens of a learner. So pretend like you are having to go through this cache and issue training, and this is the first thing that happens within this course, because I'm going to follow up once we come back together, and I'm going to ask you about what your impressions or what your takeaways might have been, again, from that learner lens. All right. So I'm going to put this narrative introduction video into the chat. I'm going to give you about 4 minutes to go and watch that video on your own. When you're back, just kind of give me a thumbs up if you have your webcam on, or put in the chat that you're good to go. But again, about 4 minutes or so, go ahead and head that video, watch that video, and then we'll come back and talk about it. Sorry, Carol, your video spun out. Sorry to hear that. Oh, Josh, suddenly I want an annuity. Nice, nice. So tell me, you know, I asked you to kind of put on your learner hat as if you were taking this course. So what are you going to be, what are you going to be expected to do when you go through this cash and issue training based solely on that video? Give me, somebody throw one thing out there that you're going to have to do in this training course.
I'm going to have to figure out how to combine these two different things into one job.
All right. So we got the land of pending requirements and we have the land of cash and issue. So we got to figure out how we mold those things together into one job. Perfect. What else? What are you going to expect to learn? Everybody forgot already?
I didn't get that far before it froze.
Oh yeah, you got an excuse, Carol. You're good.
Yeah, but I want to know. Like I paused the video so I can listen to it later. You had me hooked immediately. I was thinking like, wow, I was just so impressed with just the creativity that went into it, and yeah, that's just awesome.
Thank you. Yeah, this was. And I'm going to share my screen here in a minute. I'll show you the source file so we can kind of point out a couple different things on it. But what I love most about animation is the power of narrative and storytelling. And you think about a course, you know, any e-learning course, it's really hard to hold people's attention, you know, for a long period of time. And in this case, it started out as a 2-hour course. With the redesign and these videos, it ended at a 2-hour course, exact same content, but exponentially more gripping and engaging, because right away we're putting the learner into that story. We're setting the stage. We tell them exactly what's going to happen and what's going on in this world. And then we wrap it up also with the course learning objectives in here. And I love using animation for learning objectives, because if you think about, you know, what you're used to at the beginning of a course, by the end of this course, you will be able to objective, objective, objective. That video at the end of that intro video was like the commercial, and it had the learning objectives in it. Exact same format. By the end of this, you know, you will need to demonstrate blah, blah, blah. Exact same way, but using motion graphics and animation, it makes it, you know, it puts you in there and makes it more real for you. What was really important with this entire course, and the narrative and the animations that we use, was that we have continuity between, like I mentioned, that this is an extension of this new business pending requirements project. And I'm going to turn my screen on for you so you can see this. But it was really important to us that we continue the narrative and make it feel exactly like something they're used to. So the very first scene in this video opens up on these characters right here, sitting here watching television. Every one of these characters that you see on here, the lady in yellow, this lady in yellow, the Mohawk guy, they were characters that you were introduced to in the pending requirements e-learning course. So right away, very first thing you see, oh, there's people I'm familiar with. You've got land of pending requirements City Hall up here. So there's another quick visual cue of where you are. And when we thought about how to tell this story, we knew that we wanted to do, you know, this contest where you're going to be the consultant of cash. You're going to lead the merger of these two nations. And we thought, like, how would that news come out? Like, how would people learn about that? And we thought, well, maybe there'd be a breaking news story that would come out. We thought, okay, well, let's do that. All right, well, then if there's breaking news, what is it breaking into? And that's where this riff on The Bachelor came from, or I guess The Bachelorette in this instance, is we can create this fictitious television show. The wording and the things that you heard in there. So this person's love is worth more than any surrender charge. Will you be my beneficiary? I mean, all these are terms for, you know, financial contracts and particularly our annuities. So we can loop in a healthy heaping of dad jokes and stupid humor. And that's like, you know, I've worked with Mary a lot, Amanda a lot. Mary's on here. She knows, like, anytime I can throw in some really dumb humor, like a good dad joke, I'm going to take that opportunity and I'm going to run with it. So we were able to, you know, make this kind of funny thing, like, you know, this is a real life scenario. Breaking news cuts into a television show, but this is an entirely fictitious world that we can create and we can make however we want to. So that was something that I really, really loved about this project is, you know, kind of like what Melissa was saying is, you know, she said, hey, I got this idea, and they just said, okay, run with it, go for it. It was the same thing with this, is just like creative potential just gets unleashed, and I can do essentially whatever I want as long as it supports the learning, is engaging, and we get good outcomes from it. So you kind of saw that. A couple things technically about how this video was put together. Everything in this video was created in Vyond except for this "Will You Be My Benny" lower third on here. I'll zoom in a little bit so you can maybe see that a little bit better. Let's see how well it works. It's gonna be a little bit of a lag. There we go. That's a little bit better. So this Land of Penny Requirements TV icon, "Will You Be My Benny" lower third. I created that in Illustrator, and then I brought that into to Vyond. And then the breaking news, where's that? Over here. So this breaking news icon, I also created that Action 5. I think I created it in Illustrator and brought it in. But otherwise, pretty much everything was created entirely in-house. The voices that you heard on this thing were almost all interns that we had at Athene last summer. So the person that voiced the Grand Poobah, this lady right here, her name is Jenny Long. She's a teacher now in Cedar Rapids, but she was our intern last summer. Did that voice. The news anchor was voiced by an intern from last summer. The characters in "Will You Be My Benny," the host and Alexa, both interns as well. So we were able to pull in a lot of different voices to give it some really good variety throughout the entire course. You might have also noticed within the within this speech, when the Poobah is talking, she's got some reverb on her voice, so it sounds like she's talking through a PA over a loudspeaker. I did that in Adobe Audition and then brought that. So I do all my voiceovers in Adobe Audition and then just import them into Vyond. So I was able to add a little bit. I think it was the stock effect that existed in there to make that, you know, sound authentic, because I think sound is extremely important in animation to make sure it feels real. You know, so if you're talking over a PA system, it's not going to be a dry sound as if, you know, we're talking right now face to face. It's going to have a little bit of an echo, a little bit of kind of a roominess to it. So we can throw that stock effect on there as well.
Adam, sorry to interrupt. I was going to ask if anybody uses Audacity for their voice, for their recordings. There's a lot of those stock things within that too, but I didn't know. Does anybody else use Audacity?
We used to.
Right. And what are you using now?
Now we use Sony SoundForge, and then I edit in Audacity, or not Audacity, but Audition, because that's what I have.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Yep, we've used Audacity as well, and I've had good luck with it. I also have kind of switched over to Audition just because we use the Adobe suite, but I think Audacity's slick.
Yeah, we don't have the Adobe suite anymore, so that's why I was asking. All right, thank you.
And I saw you ask Melissa how you find people to do the voices. That's actually a good segue into the second video example that I want to share with you guys. But this part,
we planned that, Adam. We planned it.
Yeah, it's good. But really, it's honestly whoever wants to. So we use voices from I use voices from my team a lot. In another video, we'll look, there's an example of Shelby Forey, one of my peers voiced it for us. But because we had the captive audience with the interns and they couldn't say no, we just used them. And they all did a really good job. None of them are professionally trained or anything. I just said, here's kind of what I envision in my brain for how this character is going to sound. Go for it. But honestly, it doesn't really make a difference. So that actually leads me into the next video. But before we do that, any questions, thoughts, comments, concerns about that first introduction video, how it worked, why we did what we did, before we move on? Okay. So the second video I want to show you is for this course, we used animation throughout the entire thing. You know, we set the world, and that intro video sets up the environment of the course. But instead of doing like an introduction for each module, there were, I think, 4 different modules within this course. So instead of just having text on screen that says, in this section, you will learn about boom, 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 we wanted to use animated video to both continue the narrative and set up what's going to happen in the section. So I'm going to drop a link in. This video is much shorter. It's only 1 minute long. Hopefully, Carol, it does not spin out for you this time. But that is in there. Same drill. Go ahead and open that link. Watch that video on your own. Again, it's about 1 minute and 3 seconds long. And then we'll come back together and we'll talk a little bit about why we did that. So it is in the chat. Go for it. So like I said, pretty quick on that one. And I mentioned oh no, Carol. I don't know what's going on. We'll make sure you get those links if you can test them out on a better network, or maybe when we're not using all the bandwidth. So I mentioned a good segue about how we find voices for our videos. The guy that did Instructor Billingsworth is a guy named Josh Burke. I think he's been affiliated with the Tech SIG in the past. He was an IT guy at Athene, who now works for Microsoft. Apparently, he is a professionally trained voice actor and has done ebooks for like in that British accent. And what's kind of funny is somebody had said, oh, you should go get Josh to do a voice. He's really good. I'm like, all right. So I emailed him and just asked if he'd be willing to provide a voice for it. And whenever I go down to, I do silly voiceovers and, you know, crazy voices sometimes depending on the project, but I usually just go down there and try a bunch of things, and whatever works best for me, I go with it. Josh comes into this recording session with the script in hand. There's hardly any dialogue on it. And he's like, I have actually prepared 2 different characters for this. I have this stuffy British person, or I have this more laid back California guy. Which one would you prefer? I'm like, I don't know, man. Like, let's do them both and see how it works. And I thought it turned out really, really well. And just like what we saw in that narrative intro video, you know, a nice healthy dad joke in there about horseplay. I don't know if anybody laughed at it, but it made me laugh, so I put it in there. So there. But that one, one of the things that I really love about using animation for that sort of thing, so like to set the stage, it does 2 things, right? It both continues the narrative, and then I was able to slide in a couple additional things within that video of the with them. You know, why should you care about acceptable and unacceptable funds? What does it mean? You can have that as text on screen in an e-learning course or on a slide, or you can slide it in like I did in that video where it's as if it's appearing on an overhead projector in a, you know, like in a lecture hall. And because of the environment and the narrative and stuff, I think that resonates more with people than just simply reading it. And then after that video, you jump right into the main content of that section. All right. Mary, right up my alley. Got the horseplay joke? Awesome. So there were, like I mentioned, 4 different sections for this course, and every one of those scenes or sections had one of these intro videos. So all 3, the sergeants or the instructors all had their own introduction. I used different voices for all of them. And then at the very end, the way this, I guess I should have mentioned this earlier, but the way this course is framed is you learn about all the stuff. So like that section was this acceptable and unacceptable funds. So you learn about all those things, and then you have to do a challenge, which is essentially a knowledge check at the end of that section. And the contest starts out with, I think, 8 or 10 different people. And then after every section, it gets whittled down. So eventually the learner is the final one, and wins the Consultant of Cash title. And then you're trained in cash and issue and go into a classroom. I think we followed up with a classroom training portion. But every one of those scenes, again, we continue the narrative and set it up so that narrative flows consistently throughout the entire course. So there's that. What questions you guys have about kind of that scene introduction and using narration or using animated video to set the stage for different sections?
I really like these kind of intro videos or kind of transition videos because I am perhaps not the world's most creative designer. And so when I watch these, I'm like, this is way out of my, like, I would never think about using The Bachelor as a, you know, like setting for a video. And I see it in practice and I go, that's super cool. But like, I don't know that I could do that or that it would take me a really long time to do and it wouldn't be nearly as funny as Adam's. But these little transition videos, this is something that I can do either to kind of dip my toe in the water with it, or as a way to move that narrative through the training, but to give that storytelling element, but within the means of what I can do or maybe what my team can do. So A+.
Thank you.
I also appreciate your use of diversity and diverse characters because that is a big deal, and Beyond can be a little
stereotypical.
Stereotypical, thanks. Yep. And you did a nice job of making all of these folks look like they're just part of the conversation. So good job.
Yeah, that's something I very consciously try to do in every single video that I make. And Mary's right. There are some stock characters in Beyond that are very exaggerated or have very exaggerated features that you just would never want to use in a course. So I think all the characters in here that you see are all custom. So I took an existing character and then just modified it in some way, shape, or form to make it a little bit more realistic or a little bit more inclusive, I guess. And all of the scripts for this, I wrote all the scripts and the storyboards and edited all of these videos myself. Although I had a ton of help from my team throughout the whole thing. So I'd write a script and say, do you think this is funny or do you think this works? And we'll get feedback on it before recording the final version. So I appreciate that, those comments, Mary. Really cool to hear.
How long do you think it took you to storyboard that?
10 minutes, 15 minutes, maybe. Not very long.
What?
The way that my brain works, I guess I should preface this, is that this is something that I enjoy doing a lot. And it's really how my brain works in video format like this. Storytelling is something that I just can't get enough of. And so it's like, well, what's this British person, or they're like a British character. Actually, let me say this. Every one of those intro videos, so the one we just looked at is for Module 2, they all are essentially the same, meaning that they're set in something happens, then they move into a classroom, and the scripts really wrote themselves because of the fact that it's just an introduction to the module. So whatever's in that module, I'm going to put into that course, or I'm going to hit at least the cliff notes or the highlights of it. But as far as like the concept of coming up with like the overall narrative and who is this character like and all that stuff, I don't know if I can articulately explain kind of how it works. It just pops into my brain and then we run with it. But yeah, script writing, that each of these videos didn't take a ton of time.
That was going to be a question for me, Adam. Like, can you describe your documentation? Like, this is beyond anything that I've done as far as carrying a story through. I mean, I've dabbled in it, but not to this degree. So can you kind of describe your storyboard, like he said, or what does it look like?
Let me see if I can find it. I generally create storyboards with like a loose idea of what I want to have happen on screen. Yes, I do have them. Let me share it. Scene.
To piggyback on that, Adam, I know you said too that you kind of get free reign, that they say go for it and you start developing. Have you had anything that you've come up with that has gotten pushback and saying that's a little bit too not what we're looking for?
Not yet.
Do you consult with others?
I do, yeah.
Like,
so
if we send you a script, will you add some dad jokes into it for us?
Yeah, I'm happy to help out if I need to inject some stupid humor into it, by all means. Yeah, Mary was subjected when I worked at Nationwide, and even Amanda. Mary sat right in front of me. Amanda sat right behind me, so they were incessantly pounded with terrible jokes. So I'm sure that
that's awesome. I'll be sending you some jokes later today.
Yep. And now
all the things I miss at Nationwide, your dad jokes are probably the best, right?
Yeah, now I get a pound. Mary Jansen's in here today. Mary gets to be the recipient of them now, and all the other people around my team.
So Mary, have you heard, you know it's coming because Adam will be at his desk working and you'll hear this like little giggle and then it'll just get louder and louder. And it's like, you could wait for him to say something, or you can just get up and walk over and be like, what brilliant thing did you create?
Yeah.
Lay our best dad jokes on us. So
double-edged sword. You know, Carol, I found my storyboard for this video, but all of the scene descriptions are blank. So I didn't actually do anything with it. I just created the dialogue for the scenes, because I put essentially one sentence usually of the script into a scene. So I have it all chunked out like that, but you know, it's like, it starts out, let me share it here. You know, it starts out with, attention everyone, I'm Instructor Billingsworth, and I know I'm going to be outside. So he's going to walk up from the left. He's outside. There's no horseplay. I said, no horseplay. There's a horse that's going to come in. Like, I guess I just used what was in my brain in order to do that. So nice. Sorry. I wish I had apparently, that's also kind of my MO too. Is like, sometimes I just go, I could probably be a little more thoughtful in what I do, but
it works.
Yeah. I want to show you guys, I'm going to do two things here. I want to show you one more video. I was going to show you the the ending video, because there's a video that bookends the entire narrative, so that the bachelor comes back. That is one time, Melissa, you asked like if I've ever gotten pushback. I thought I was going to on one of the jokes I included in this video. So I'm going to put it in the chat, and you guys can watch it if you want after here. But there is one other thing. We use animation not just for narrative, but we used it for explainer or content introduction. So the video that I'm going to put, this is 1 minute and 37 seconds long. I'm going to drop into the chat. This is another way that you can use animation in your projects to explain a complex topic. And it's just a financial type of kind of financial concept explainer. So that video is in there. I'll give you just a couple minutes to open that up and watch that. And then I will also drop that narrative exit video in here as well, so we can have that for posterity. But go ahead and open that link, take a look at that video. It's called Source of Funds, and then we'll come back and we'll wrap up for the day. Nice, Melissa. Great dad joke. What kind of sandals do frogs wear? Open-toed sandals. Nice. So not really a whole lot. I just wanted to share that. I sent the wrong one. I'm sorry, Mary. I'll go look at that. I'll correct that. Sorry. I put a link to the wrong one in there, but just wanted to give you guys an idea of, like I said, the other way that you can use animation to explain concepts. And I will share, I did find the storyboard for that one. And I did bake this one out a little bit more before I actually went in. I think for explainer videos, I tend to spend a little bit more time thinking about it, because it's not like you're just telling a story and, you know, what's happening with the story or the dialogue. You know, it's pretty easy to match that up to the video. But with this, where it's just, you know, a voice of God narration, it makes it a little more difficult. So you can kind of see in here, you know, like that, the second scene with the pie chart, 75% of our business is in transfer and replacements. We had that pie chart animated in, we flew in transfers and replacements, we animated an arrow, and then the IRS building popped up. So I had a pretty solid idea coming into that video before I even stepped in or opened up beyond of what I wanted to have happen. And that for me makes it flow a little bit easier, because if I don't do this for an explainer type of video, there's a really strong chance that I'm going to sit there and stare, or I'm just going to search around the assets and objects within Vyond or whatever until I find something I like, which adds a lot more time to the production. If I remember right, this video took about a day, about 8 hours of total development time to put together within Vyond. Some of it was aided by like these scenes where you have like some common account types and some common investment vehicles. It's just one scene where you have objects flying in and lining up. So those happen pretty quickly, but yeah, this one is a little bit more robust and baked out than the other one. So with that, I guess I will kind of pause and stop and say thank you guys for coming in this morning. This session, like I said, is being recorded. I'll make sure I get a copy of the transcript out to everybody. So you have those video links if you want to go out and watch them again. Good news is there's nothing proprietary with these videos that I shared. It's just all story. So it's completely fine to have those out there and share those with you guys. I'm happy, more than happy. Melissa, I'm sure, is the same way. I don't want to speak for you, Melissa, but I assume you're probably okay with people reaching out. And if you have questions about how to use animation or collaborate or ideation, anything like that, you know, by all means, yeah, let us know. We're more than happy to talk. And then next month, our kind of final thing here is, if you have, we're talking about video production next month, and I know some of you guys mentioned you're doing animated video. If you have any examples of video projects that you've worked on or things that you might want to share that obviously you can share that doesn't include anything proprietary, please let me know. arich@athene.com is my email address, arich. And we'd love to showcase some after kind of a general conversation about video next month. So any final thoughts, questions, comments, concerns, anything before we wrap up for July?
Thanks, everybody.
Awesome. Yeah, appreciate you guys coming in and be looking for that transcript here. I'll send it out before lunchtime with all those video links. So have a great rest of your Friday and rest of July, and we'll hopefully see you guys again in August.
Thank you. This was fabulous.
Perfect. Thank you, Carol.
Thanks.
Take
Have
care.
a good weekend.
Yep.
Bye.
Thanks, everybody.
Bye.